Just want to share a little bit of what the alchemist started us thinking about. I got a little bit of a kind of a biog. As you can see, I've got a very theatrical accent, and I was born into a theatrical family. My dad worked at Upton Pit, and my mother was a dinner lady. I too failed my 11 plus, and I got a good hiding off my dad because I expected to pass my 11 plus because my mum and dad sent me to bed early. There was a kind of logic that if you went to bed when it was light outside, you were brainy, and if you were out nicking stuff and putting cars on bricks, you know, you weren't very, you were thick. And now I played against that because whenever it were 95 degrees in July, my mum made me go to bed. And this is before you could text people to come and call for you, or to MSN people to say, listen, I'm grounded, please come and call for me. So I was one of those kids who was sent to bed when it was 95 degrees and the sun was out at 7 o'clock. So I walked into never forget it, walked into doing my 11 plus, into this room, and I had no idea what the 11 plus meant, but I knew that if you passed this thing, you went to Pontefract Grammar School, and if you failed, you went to a secondary modern school. So I'd come across this word. The first question on the paper was, what do you understand by the word quenched? Right? Now, my hobby at that time were playing football, bodybuilding, and putting tadpoles in jam jars. I had never seen a word beginning with Q before in my life. The only word I'd seen was queen, right? We didn't use quenched in our house. If you wanted a drink, you were gagging. Okay, and I realized at that time that I was entering into a middle-class lifestyle. I was jumping the hoops of a middle-class lifestyle. So I failed my 11 plus, and everybody else got a racing bike, and my dad gave me a good hiding. And I went to Upton Secondary Modern School, which was actually a lie, because it was secondary and not very modern. And they had a real hobby at that school. On the first day, first year kids got thrown through a hawthorn bush. So you arrive at school, you're nervous. What do? A load of big hairy lads come and grab you and chuck you through an hawthorn bush. And I remember thinking to myself, I hope to God Alec Clegg invents the comprehensive system and we can go to comprehensive education. And do you know what? Minthorpe High School, a big comprehensive school, were built in 1966, and 1968, and I ended up going there. Now, what I wanted to do, I wanted to play football for Leeds. That's all I ever dreamt of, playing football for Leeds. My dad reckons now I'd get a game, and I'm 53. But that's what I wanted to do, and I got all the kit, you know, I got the Leeds stuff, I got the, you know, you're probably too young, some of you lot, but that Leeds started wearing socks with numbers on the side and scarves, and they were the first to market sport. And I was fortunate enough that I was 16 and I had a trial. I was so desperate to get on. I didn't get selected. And what happened overnight, it's absolutely true, and I've never spoken about this in public before either. I was coming home from Pictures once. We used to call it Pictures, down South Emsall. And I'd snuck in to see an 18 film. I'd snuck in to see Twins of Evil, which was about lesbian vampires. Right? I don't know why I was interested in that, but I mean, I'm interested in vampires. The other stuff I knew nothing about. So I snuck in to see this thing, Twins of Evil. And as I'm walking home, me and my mate, Tub, you can imagine what he was like, we called Tub. Me and my mate, Tub, took a can of Guinness into the cinema with us, because we thought we were rock, you know, we thought we were hard. And we shared this can of Guinness. And on the way out, I'm walking home, because we didn't have any bus fare, because we spent it on the Guinness. And I'm walking home, and there's this shadowy figure. And this kid says to me, they call you Godber? I said, yeah. Bang, woof, hit me in the face. Blimey, what a reaction. You know, and he'd not seen any of my plays. So I got walloped in the face, and I rush into our house. My dad's in bed, right? He's got his teeth out, he's got his pyjamas on. And my dad used to wear his pyjamas tied up under his armpits, you know, pull them really up with a string and all this kind of stuff. He said, what's happened? I said, this kid's just walloped me in the face. He says, oh, crikey, okay. What are we going to do? I said, well, there's two things we can do. We can either run like hell or we can call police. And next thing I know, they're in the actual house after me. Anyway, we managed to calm them down. My dad discovers he knows this kid's dad. So what we do, we go in the car to a place called Fitzwilliam, which is where Jeff Boycott was born and brought up. And years later, I used to be a bin man. I used to empty their dustbins. And we're going, long story, but we're going to his house, and my dad sees his father, and he knows him. And his father used to play rugby for Wakefield Trinity. And he says, now then, Joe, what are you going to do? Do you want to press charges against my son, who was at you for nothing? Or do you want to wreak some kind of revenge? And that was a turning point in my life, because I said, no, I won't always be 6'1" and 2 stone, because I was quite thin. I'm going to start training, right? He said, okay, fair enough, respect that. 2 weeks later, I went to my uncle's house. I wasn't aware of this, as my dad's brother. And my uncle had been a self-defense instructor with the Gurkhas, okay? I thought he worked for NCB. But he'd been a self-defense instructor and now worked in industrial relations. And I remember going into his house and saying, Uncle Eric, show me the way. He said, I'll show you into my garage. So he took me into his garage, and it was a shrine to the martial arts. Absolutely true. Opens his garage, and it's full of Gurkha swords and weights. So I think, I'm having some of that, because I'm going to get my own back on this kid who beat me up. So I remember picking these weights up. Reg Park weights they were. Reg Park actually were Arnold Schwarzenegger's mentor, and used to live down Cambridge Street in South Emsall, which is the next village to where I was born and brought up. So I got these weights, took them home, started training like hell. Got tennis elbow. Training too hard. My dad did a lot of curling. He couldn't work for 2 months. But I was absolutely determined to build this rock, this kind of physique. And then something happened. This kid who had hit me, his dad strangled him and killed him. And there was a post-mortem on him. And this lad had been the British amateur boxing champion at light heavyweight. And he had a brain tumour. And a brain tumour because he'd been boxing since he was 9. Now, the shock of that, you know, I was kind of building myself into this kind of creature like the Hulk to get my own back. And suddenly I couldn't get my own back. That possibility had gone. And at that time, I tried to find some way of dealing with that experience. And I had a drama teacher at school who put me into plays. And I became fascinated by plays, by performance, by communication, if you like. So I went from wanting to play football professionally to suddenly, you know, being involved with martial arts and, you know, body culture, to having a massive interest in literature. And when I went for the job that I currently do now, which I've been doing for 25 years, the bloke who was in the interview before me was Danny Boyle, who directed Slumdog Millionaire. He pulled the short straw. He went to Hollywood, and I went to Hull.